The title of this video is How to Break Free from Soul Traps. And after I explain this topic, I'm going to lead you through a guided meditation to ensure that you don't get trapped. This is one of my longer videos. Have you ever heard of soul traps? There are posts on social media, no doubt scaring a lot of those who watch them because they contain threats that after you die, you will be tricked to go into the light. But it's actually a trap to force you to choose reincarnation over and over, forever stuck on the prison planet known as Earth. These internet posts seem to come from one of two sources. They're either channeled or generated by AI. And a problem with AI is that people are inclined to accept what they see and hear that's produced by AI because they sound professional and they're backed up with a whole lot of interesting information. However, AI responds to what you ask by basing its answer on what it thinks is your point of view. So it gathers information from the internet that aligns with what you believe, and it feeds it back to you. So I've had people writing to me lately asking, where have I been all their life? I assure you I've been around. I have over 50 years experience exploring higher consciousness with thousands of people in meditative retreats, classes, and tens of thousands of individual sessions. In addition, I produce hundreds of audio courses, hundreds of videos. I've written 10 books on Amazon, including the Handbook for Enlightenment and Ascension. And between 1985 and 1993, I was on over 300 TV channels every week with my program titled Mind Power. So I'm quite familiar with many spiritual topics, including what are being called soul traps. In this video, I want to inform you on how the mechanisms work, what to experience, what to expect when you exit your physical life. Some people posting on social media are very well intentioned. Some may be deceptive. Some don't know any better, but they simply pass along what seems to be interesting to them or that they've heard someone else say. But there is a consensus among all the religions and all the spiritual paths that human beings are actually souls living in biological containers. The physical body is like clothing that you wear while you live on the earth. Of course, this is common knowledge among those on a spiritual path, and it has been stated as we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, that's quite a common quote, and it's been attributed to several different people. And I don't think it's worth trying to figure out who it was that originated it. But it does suggest that your physical life is just one aspect of your existence over a whole long continuum called your life stream or your timeline. And it transcends any individual lifetime. So it occurred to me years ago that if we have a soul, or we are a soul, it might be important to learn about what it is. So I thought this was a topic worthy of doing some research. And I did this decades ago, and it resulted in my first book, which is titled The Soul Solution, which is all about our soul. Your human existence is a temporary journey that spans eons of time. And there's probably way more time ahead of us than is even behind us. Some people say that all time is simultaneous, so in some ways that statement might not make sense. But since we are currently living in a linear time frame, you could expect that you might have eons or trillions of years in your future. When you're no longer in a physical body, you still have two major components forming your identity. One is what we know as your personality. It has memories and it has beliefs. It has the accumulation of all of your experiences. And this includes karma. Karma are really your beliefs, beliefs you've accumulated over lifetimes. And these are what form the creative forces stored in what is called your causal body. I call it your belief universe. It's called the causal body because everything that has a cause in your life comes from energy or belief stored in your causal body. So this has importance because the energies in your causal body are what carry over from one lifetime to another, because the energies in the causal body are what cause you to attract and manifest conditions based on your beliefs. And here's the hook, most of them are in your subconscious mind. These beliefs are behind what you use to make your choices and decisions. And the degree of how much influence your beliefs and karma have on you is proportional to how strongly you believe your beliefs. If you are strongly committed to your beliefs, you're going to make choices that continue those beliefs. Or you'll live a life where you work on fixing what you believe are errors in your beliefs. For instance, your strongest beliefs that are negative are fueled by guilt, fear, hate, and anger. In other words, the causes of negative emotions and reactions lie in the degree that you are committed to the beliefs that trigger the emotions. And these vary from person to person, depending on how invested you are in the beliefs causing the reactions. Most of the forces driving reincarnation are from guilt, probably 90% or more. Now let's go a little further with it. Your thoughts, feelings, and actions make their impressions on what is called the akasha. These impressions record your likes and dislikes, attractions and aversions, pleasure and suffering, and things hidden as well as things that are expressed. Each and every word, your conscious and unconscious thoughts and beliefs, and even those in your sleep and dreams, in fact, every moment of every day, are all recorded in what's called the Akashic record. What you did, choices you made, what you disliked, how you suffered, what you enjoyed, what you hid, what you exposed, what you denied, what you took credit for, every feeling you had, every judgment you made. All this is important to realize because millions have reported on near-death experiences and they go through a life review. And all of this is brought up and an offer is made to reincarnate to fix whatever you think you need to fix. So you can see that this review can work to bring you favorable experiences or things that you wish you could change. The problem with karma lies in the fact that the inner guide within you, which determines the workings of karma, is never quite sure when sufficient suffering has balanced a past mistake. You see, karma is always trying to balance. It's always trying to compensate for. It's always trying to fix. So, for example, let's say you stole some money from your mother's purse when you were a young child. Well, you would probably harbor some guilt And that guilt could lead to certain consequences. Perhaps forces of attraction would attract somebody who would steal something from you. But, and this is a big but, suffering by having something stolen from you would not necessarily relieve you of the deep-seated guilt that you feel over your actions of having stolen something yourself. So, as a consequence, you could continue to suffer over and over and over and over in a vain attempt to diminish or pay for your guilt. Or in the life review, your guides will propose to that you try another life where you make up for any shortcomings in the preceding life. Now, some people are going to say, I don't believe any of that karma nonsense or any of that reincarnation nonsense. It's all an illusion anyway. The problem with this line of reasoning is that it is in denial of the soul itself, which is made of love and light and other qualities of peacefulness and acceptance. But by denying it, doesn't negate the conflict created by the beliefs and actions that are contrary to the nature of the soul. It's the conflict between the nature of the soul and the beliefs and actions a person does that creates a tension in the form of anger, guilt, hate, shame, or fear. So a person may say or think they believe what they say and do are illusions. But if it's out of integrity or alignment or congruence with the soul, it will still set in motion consequences. And this is where the concept of karma enters, even with those who deny it. In most cases, a person never consciously makes the connection in this life with their suffering as a consequence for a particular action they did earlier in this life or a past life. Now, when you introduce numerous past lives that everybody has had, the process becomes rather difficult to figure out. Fortunately, there are at least 3 major painless ways to become free from karma. Now, undoubtedly, there are more than 3, but I think 3 are the main ones that I want to go over with you. And you might want to apply yourself to all aspects of all 3 of them, just to be sure. The first one is having deep devotion to God or a higher power. Now, this one's not for everybody. I understand that. But a lot of people feel a very deep, close connection with the spiritual side of who they are, and they want to have a close connection with God. So if you are on that track, you can create a field that will release and dissolve karmically created patterns because you're aligning yourself deeply with the love and the goodness of God through your devotion. A second approach to dissolving or releasing karma is methodical alignment and removal of each karmic belief pattern, such as through forgiveness or subtle energy clearing and healing. The methodical approach requires that you specifically identify the karmic pattern and either express deep self-forgiveness or you remove all the subtle energy from the underlying beliefs, judgments, and emotions. You see, all of your beliefs are in what are called thought forms. These are little subtle energetic packages like recordings that hold the memories, They hold the emotional content and the beliefs or the conclusions that you came to about that memory. So now you might be thinking, well, how do you dissolve them? What is this all about? Well, you start by realizing that whatever the belief is that results in some emotional reaction, it's based on some conclusion that you came to, that you became attached to. The degree that you are invested in the belief determines the degree that that belief will manifest. And it usually does that over a period of time, sometimes a very slow period of time, sometimes years, and even lifetimes. So years ago, you no doubt believed some things that you were certain of. But then as time passed, you discovered that you no longer believe that. So beliefs are not necessarily facts. And it's not my intention here to go sorting through all of this, but I do suggest that you keep an open mind. Otherwise, you're not going to evolve. You'll stay stuck in some old beliefs. The third karmic releasing method is perhaps the simplest and maybe the quickest and most important of all. It's through deep surrender of everything. Now, in a spiritual context, surrender is about releasing all forms of holding or resisting. And here's why this approach is so important. Because everything was created with free will, it takes a measure of free will to acknowledge and release what was created and held on to. And this is why the ego just doesn't disappear automatically if you ask it to. You see, you are a very powerful creator. And when you put a force of will and intention or a request into a choice or a decision, you empower it with a tremendous, persistent creative force. Then to switch to letting go of what you have previously created, it takes some time to identify. What did I create? What was it based on? What were my beliefs? What were my conclusions? What were my reactions? So you have to identify it. You basically only clear or release what you identify. And then you follow that by a very deep release and surrendering. And there is a hidden bonus in the surrender process. When you keep surrendering, you eventually reach a state where you are surrendered. That means you're not holding on to anything any longer. You're no longer judging anything. That also means you're not reacting or resisting anything. You attain a certain level of acceptance of what is because you recognize you've set in motion all of the forces that caused whatever you're experiencing to manifest. So when you are surrendered, you release all of the energy that went into that. And therefore, there is no part of you holding or creating karma any longer. So at that point, you become what is called liberated. Now, you may say, I surrender and release my need to hold on to any guilt or anger. And you may feel some relief. As you keep doing this practice, you eventually arrive at a state of surrender where there is no longer any anger or guilt. You have surrendered it, you've released it, you've dissolved it, you've let it go, and you are no longer judging yourself. So this is where you arrive at living without judgments, which also means without any negativity. So if you're not holding any negative programming, or beliefs or conclusions or reactions. You are not putting anything out into the universe to reflect back to you the result of those negative holds. Your judgments are really just inner voices that you've accumulated over lifetimes. They tell you what is right and what is wrong, whether you are right or whether you are wrong. So let's say you're having financial stress and you have feelings of being unworthy of abundance. Maybe you picked that up in your childhood. Or maybe your parents struggled financially. And so you assume or absorb subconsciously that you'll probably have struggles with money and finances and abundance of all forms in the future. So what you do is you take words that describe what you are feeling and experiencing, and you plug those words into a surrender intention while you connect with the feelings behind the words. For example, one sentence for surrender is, I am willing to surrender and release the need for financial stress and feeling unworthy. As you repeat this process, each time reaching deeper and deeper into the belief patterns, you will eventually reach the core. And when you surrender and release the core, the issue will be gone. Because there's no energy to cause it to continue or to replicate or to repeat or to manifest. What you are releasing are just recordings in your subconscious somewhere that you have convinced are voices of truth, when the truth is someone made them all up, or you may have made them up yourself. I remember a person I was working with one time who was a day trader on the stock market. And one day he would make a bunch of money, another day he would lose a bunch of money. So he asked me to take a look to see if I could figure out what the program was that was running at him causing this. So I took a look at him and I got the impression of there being three men dressed in the kind of clothing and suits that men wore back in the 1930s. And I thought, well, that was kind of an odd thing. It was near the third chakra, actually in his spleen. And I mentioned it to him. And as soon as I said that to him, he said, I know who they are. He said, that's my uncle, my father, and my grandfather. And all three of them went bankrupt during the Great Depression. And so I said, well, we certainly want to remove those programs from your energy body, which I proceeded to do. And as soon as I did it, he said, wait a minute, the voices stopped. And I said, what voices? And he said, ever since I was a young child, I had voices repeating in my mind that I was going to lose all my money. So now this man was in his 50s at the time. So he had had that programming that he absorbed from his relatives from the time he was a little kid. And now it was affecting him in his business as an adult, decades later. So once this was cleared out, then things started working much more in his favor. So surrender, release, letting go is the most important practice and quality you or anyone could cultivate on a dedicated spiritual path. And this is why I created an audio program to guide you on how to do this. It's called The Secret of Letting Go. And you'll find it on my website if you're interested in it. When you are surrendered, you are no longer affected by anger or guilt or shame or hate or fear or any other ego-based identity. and therefore you cannot be tricked by anyone or anything. If in your earth life you have any guilt feelings about things that you've done, things that have caused shame, for instance, or things that you failed to do which you believe that you should have done, plus things you caused other people to do, you'll probably make some decisions to want to change or try to fix these in some future life. And often people experiencing what are called near-death experiences are influenced to return to fix mistakes they've made. Most of them seem to be pulled back into some version of a life review in which you're shown scenes from the life that they lived. And the scenes they're shown are designed to elicit a conclusion such as, well, I could have done that a lot better, or at least I could have done it differently. And depending on how committed you are in attempting to fix certain actions from your past, that alone might be sufficient for you to conclude, I wish I could do that over again. Or a member of your so-called planning team will make a suggestion that you go back to an earth life in which you can make better choices and decisions. And you ultimately make the decision. Although many of the circumstances and details are never explained to you of what could happen. They somehow neglect to tell you that you're going to forget everything. But the important thing here is nobody, no being can make you do anything that you do not choose to do yourself. You have free will, and no one can override that. No one can take that from you. What they can do is use psychological tricks to get you to agree to reincarnate on Earth. Now, if at this point you see this tunnel of light and you turn away from that tunnel of light and you turn away from this group who is trying to entice you to return to Earth and you say, I wish to go home, you'll return to whatever dimension you came from, but you're still going to have to deal with your beliefs and how you attached and invested you are to those beliefs and to those conclusions. But remember, you always have free will. No one can force you to make a choice. But the guides are like salespeople. They understand psychology, and they're going to make it enticing. They'll really make a sales pitch to you to get you to reincarnate. So just say no to Earth incarnations. Regardless of your consciousness level or your karma level, you can and will accelerate your evolution much faster now that you've had an Earth experience. But you certainly do not need to return to Earth. So when you find yourself in a life review shortly after you die, you can no longer be manipulated if you are surrendered. Because one of the things that you would have surrendered is the need to fix or redo anything from your past. In my Handbook for Enlightenment and Ascension, I have an entire chapter that's dedicated to the items that you want to surrender. And I have exact word formulas there for you to repeat that will free you. There are 38 topics to surrender in this chapter. And in that chapter, I explain exactly how to do it. When you master that chapter, that one chapter alone, you will be beyond control or manipulation. You will also be liberated and able then to transverse all dimensions. Now, one of the tricks that non-physical beings play on people in the planning stage for the next life is you find yourself set up in this elaborate astral creation to make you think that your life is being planned with guidance from enlightened or angelic beings. But you are actually being psychologically manipulated to make decisions yourself, to reincarnate back into a prison planet that we call Earth. And here are some of the main beliefs that often trap people when they get into this life review. There's a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It was written by a nurse named Bronnie Ware. Regret is actually a form of guilt, and more than 90% of negative karma is based on guilt. So I'm not going to comment on the regrets because I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but you're going to quickly see how you can be tricked into wanting to live another life so you can fix these things. The first regret is, oh, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not what other people expected of me. 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And the author said, all men deeply regretted this one. 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. Notice how every regret begins with, I wish. Those are regrets. Regrets imply a wish to have another chance to fix something from the past. This is part of the nature of the ego-conditioned mind. In your life review, the guides know your mind wants to fix what it regrets. So they offer you a chance to do this. And you need to be on your toes, so to speak. Any regret can hook you. It can fool you into thinking, yeah, I wish I could redo that. And as soon as you think that, you can be pulled back into a reincarnation because that thought is giving permission for a redo, a repeat of an earth life to fix something left undone, incomplete, lacking, or broken, and thinking you can fix it if you just return. This type of a scenario is repeated numerous times among the millions of examples of what are called near-death experiences. The person says, oh, I don't want to return, I want to stay here. And they're forced to go back to the current life to fix what they believe they messed up. Now, when you're up there in this life review, in this planning meeting, everything looks like it could be pretty easy because you know that your thoughts create a reality. So you figure, well, that would be easy enough. I could make things better. I'll just change my thinking. The guides somehow just don't remind you that your memory is going to be completely wiped. So you won't remember any of your past lives. You won't remember your current life. You won't have explained to you how big of a problem this will be. And that's the major trick that they play on you. In a book by P.M.H. Atwater called the Big Book of Near-Death Experiences. She covers nearly every aspect of what people have experienced with their brushes with death, as well as addressing many of the skeptics' arguments. The subtitle of the book is The Ultimate Guide to What Happens When We Die. And while the saying it's the ultimate guide might be a little bit of an exaggeration, it's certainly well done and a very good guide. Another person who studied this phenomenon extensively was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and she reported on her findings in a book on life after death. And I can also recommend that to you. One of the outstanding contributions that Elizabeth made was studying 20,000 cases from all over the world. These were all people who had been declared clinically dead, who later returned to life. What she found was they all had a common experience, whether they were Aboriginals from Australia, Hindu, Muslims, Christians, and even non-believers. She found that it didn't matter what the person's age or economic status was. There was amazing consistency in all the near-death experiences that people had. All of these people were persuaded to return to earth life to fix things, to make them better. So now, by you knowing this now, why not work to clear yourself of any limiting programs like guilt or negative karma? After studying all of these 20,000 cases, Elizabeth said, there is no longer a belief that she has about what happens to us when we die. For her now, it's a matter of knowing. Regardless of the condition of the physical body at the time of death, the soul emerges whole. The blind see, the paralyzed walk, the deaf hear. In fact, in some instances, people who are physically blind are able to report on things they saw hundreds of feet or even miles from where their body was. And the same with people who were deaf. They reported hearing things in conversations far away from where the body was, indicating that the senses, so to speak, are all fully functional through the soul when the consciousness separates from the body. Now, it's certainly not my intention to summarize all of the research on the subject, because you can read about that in the many books on the subject. You should know, though, that there is a great deal of well-done research available for anybody who's willing to take a look at the plain truth borne out by thousands upon thousands of people who report what they've experienced. My intention here is rather to simply highlight in a brief way some of the experiences that are common to nearly all of the reported cases as a prelude to what you are likely to experience, and more importantly, how you can prepare for it now. One important experience is no one dies alone. The realm the soul enters is beyond space and time. So people are reunited with loved ones, living or who have passed on. And they are instantly in their presence, even if they're on the opposite side of the earth. And in this example of people who have passed on, time is quite different in the subtle realms, and they will be waiting for us on the other side, those that loved us the most while we were alive in our physical body. Those who are promoting the soul trap idea will tell you these are false projections. These are like holograms designed to trick you into making a choice to reincarnate on Earth. But your own consciousness attracts those with whom you have connections and agreements and contracts, in some cases spanning lifetimes. And you can enjoy a life with them in the higher vibrations of love. In the afterlife state, there's a realization that the death of the physical body is only a transition to a different form of life. People usually experience the transition as floating through a tunnel, or passing through a gate, or crossing a bridge, or going through a mountain pass. And in any case, they arrive at a place where there's a brilliant light. And then you find yourself in this place where this light is, where there's a very deep and a very profound unconditional love, a love that's beyond words. This is not the trap. The trap comes with the life review, and you can be in charge of the review by refusing to regret or give up your free will choice to reincarnate. You can choose to be with your loved ones for as long as you would like, pursuing whatever makes your soul sing. What would be fun? What would you enjoy doing with your loved ones? You have the free will to make that choice. This love is experienced to the depth a person allows him or herself to be embraced by it. Do realize at some point there will be a life review. This is a process of looking back on the entire life from the very first day till the very last. You know, and in every review, every thought and deed that you ever had at any time during your life on earth will be brought up, especially if it believes it will have some impact on you making a decision. In addition, you also know there are consequences that result from your thoughts, your beliefs, your conclusions. This review is all done in a wonderful, non-judgmental state of unconditional love and acceptance. How beautiful. It's just a nice review. No one's judging you. But what does happen is when you see these things, you start judging yourself. You start forming regrets and conclusions and guilt. So they show you highlights from your life and a number of incidents in which you carry some regrets. They specifically show you any thoughts about what you might like to have continue or do more of in other lives. And those circumstances which you would like to bring to resolution are ones that they convince you to return to, but it's your own self-judgments that trap you, causing you to choose to reincarnate, to make things better. And no guide can override your free will. But they can make you offers that are very enticing. But you make the choice. One of the more well-known people who has written about his life review experiences is Dannion Brinkley. By his own admission, he apparently lived a pretty colorful and wild life at one time. And his first book was titled Saved by the Light, and it has become pretty much a classic in the field. When he had his life review in his near-death experience, he describes reliving many of the things that he had done to the people that he was mean to, but in reliving the events, he did so from the perspective of the person experiencing what he did to them, not from himself. And when he realized what he had done to many people, he resolved to return to his life. And from that point on, he would be a much more kind and loving person to make up for all of those nasty things that he said he had done. When I read the book and I heard this story, and I have seen him and met him in person at some of conventions and whole life expos, I thought, wow, this is interesting. Here is a process everybody could do now in a meditation regarding people and situations where there might have been conflict, or where there was something unresolved, or where you felt like you did something that you wish you hadn't done, or that you wish you had done something that you didn't do. And so these issues and the reactions and judgments about them can be effectively cleared by doing the life review now in a meditation. So when the time comes, when we're no longer in the physical life, we'll either bypass this experience in the future, or if you do have this experience of going through this life review, you'll be familiar with it. And you'll say, I already did this. I've already cleared these issues. So any persuasive argument that's presented to you by your spirit guides can be rejected instantly. You can tell your so-called spirit guides, no matter what you show me from my past, it is past. It's not who I am now. I have evolved past my past. I am not my past. I am the divine soul made of love and light. I am free and liberated. Now, the way you get pulled back into another earth incarnation is by you yourself making the decision to return, to make things better. A big problem with this is that the majority of people hold judgments about their life with some regrets, so they jump at the opportunity to do it better the next time. The Sufis figured this out a long time ago. They have a saying, die before you die. And one way of applying this wisdom is to explore your future state by reviewing and clearing your issues now, so you do not have any regrets, guilt, or judgments that cause you to need to redo something in another incarnation on Earth. This is not a difficult process. It is best done in a meditative state. And I'll explain to you and guide you through that shortly. But since you'll have no conscious memory of your life or any of your past lives, you'll be pulled into directions dictated by what is in your unconscious memories or your causal body. Your causal body is a warehouse of conclusions and beliefs. If you have rehearsed this before, especially in meditation, before you die, you'll be ready for this. You'll be ready for these questions. You'll be ready for these situations. And you're going to have answers already at the tip of your tongue. Answers such as, the past is past. I've already released and forgiven myself for all those actions. I don't need to relive them. I don't regret them. I've cleared that. I am not my past. I am my present. I am a present being of love and light. Okay, so that gets you over one hurdle. Now, The review committee then may try to turn the tables on you and say, well, how about an opportunity to continue all the wonderful things you enjoyed? How about some of those relationships that were fun? How about having a lot of money or fame in this next life? So this is probably a smaller percentage of people who are going to succumb to this approach, but it's one that has a lot of allure and a lot of appeal for some people. If you are promised wealth and health and power and fame, well, this can be a very strong incentive to agree to incarnating into another life. Two ways of tricking you into agreeing to reincarnate on Earth: regrets and guilt, and fame and fortune. There really is no need for an artificial soul trap. One already is in place through the natural mechanisms built into the way the whole planet Earth is set up. The biggest problem with incarnating on Earth is the memory wipe. The memory wipe. So you don't have conscious recall of the choices and the consequences of what you did in previous lives. They hook you with a belief in karma, or you reap what you sow in Christian terms, which causes you to make choices to either continue something that you found enjoyable or to fix something that you messed up through compensating for it or paying off of a debt or some kind of an obligation. These are all ideas that you yourself go into agreement with. And in some cases, you are aided in these conclusions by so-called spirit guides. And the problem is, just because some being has been your spirit guide is not a guarantee that they have any more enlightened outlooks or beliefs than a person that they're guiding. So many of them have also gone into agreement with the idea of paying for past mistakes, attempting to balance or make up for some debt, or to continue on some spiritual quest, utilizing methods taught by the various religions on Earth. So your spirit guides have often been victims of the same reincarnation tricks they're attempting to impose on you. All the while on Earth, for thousands of years, the most important spiritual teachings have been hidden or distorted, making it next to impossible to figure out the truth. Religions themselves contain so much deception and yet are so cleverly designed to brainwash you into believing you have found truth that you are so convinced the teachings are true. In some cases, you'd be willing to die for those beliefs. And that's what many martyrs have done in the past. I heard somebody say recently that nobody would die for their belief if they didn't believe it. Well, that's not necessarily true. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of martyrs who have died for erroneous beliefs. If you believe it, you can be convicted of it, and it can make you do irrational things. And yet, so many beliefs are designed through religion to instill fear or guilt. And they present God as a judging, demanding, jealous God that must be appeased through some kind of sacrifice. What kind of a God is it that wants you to suffer or sacrifice? That is an ego concept that in some way pain, suffering, and loss pays for or makes up for something that is believed to have been bad or wrong. This is the soul trap. It catches you while you're still physically alive, and in the afterlife, you continue agreeing with it. These so-called spirit guides may appeal to you to reincarnate so you can refine yourself and become more holy, more sanctified, more of a spiritual being. So you dedicate yourself to joining spiritual groups or certain religions, and you do it over and over and over, but never breaking free. And when you have merged and integrated with your soul or your true self, your nature is unconditional love, and the soul interfaces directly with God. So any topic a spirit guide tries to bait you with to convince you to incarnate to earth is met with instantaneous rejection by the soul, who knows better, because the soul is already holy, sanctified, and made out of pure love and light. A little tool that you might want to remember is to project golden light on the spirit guide, and it will strip away the garments or the masks that they're wearing. You'll expose them for what they are. And if they are shape-shifting extraterrestrials, you'll expose them. And they will instantly leave you, believe me. You can, at this time then, call on the angelic realm to support you and guide you, and you will be given much more evolved and happy options. Remember, there are many trillions of planets with sentient life in this universe that you can choose from. Michael Newton's book, Destiny of Soul, has some examples of this. Earth has been set up to be a trap, in a sense, or a psychological prison, so cleverly designed that you think you are making a free will choice to continue evolving here. It's not a prison that requires bars or shackles to contain you. You do that by your own choices, having been deceived by your own self-judgments and beliefs, and the consequences then that you must pay for. Earth is certainly a place that can help refine you, to be sure, but it actually works best for those who are a little bit more evolved, who are not so easily manipulated or tricked or deceived. But the majority of people trapped here are not aware enough or equipped enough with knowledge and tools to confront and defeat the deceivers. The first time you incarnated on Earth, you may have been very naive and thought this would be an easy place to live, a fun place to have a vacation. But once you incarnate, you quickly discover you have no memory of what went on before. You don't remember your past. And all the energies you've set in motion then become focused on survival. Fear becomes the primary driver, and it arises within you, causing you to make protective choices. Other people, driven by their fears, take advantage of you, causing you to react with anger and jealousy and envy and hate and guilt and rage and all the other negative energies that are so familiar from an ego-based program. And then you get caught in a web of your own making that overlays your soul and strengthens your ego identities. And soon you forget you are a soul, and you are now on a reincarnation wheel, trying lifetime after lifetime to free yourself, but often entangling yourself deeper. Now, at some point, you will live enough lifetimes when you've tried every religion and experience that you have to have experience with here on earth, and you'll have enough memory and enough of your wits that you're going to be able to say, no, not this time. I've done enough. I've paid more than enough to compensate for my past actions. I'm ready, and I choose to graduate from Earth School or Earth Prison, whichever way you choose to view it. You arrive at this place by releasing yourself from your ego-controlled mind. You put into practice clearing and healing methods to free you from personal and group karma. You free yourself from oaths and vows and contracts and commitments that have bound you here. You release yourself from the illusions of karmic obligations, including karma accumulated from your ancestors and their beliefs, their needs, their contracts. Most people on earth are not sufficiently aware of this information, or they are not prepared to give the best answers when asked if they want to fix or continue what they started in the past. There are some who say that this whole earthbound system is designed to serve extraterrestrial species because they're able to somehow harvest and thrive off of the emotional energy that humans generate through suffering. Emotional pain emits certain frequencies of energy. And apparently, there are certain non-physical, non-human beings that feed off of this energy. So it is in their vested interest to persuade humans to make choices which effectively enslave them and trap them into repeating their past pain. In addition, because there are some non-physical beings who want to harvest the negative emotional energy humans generate, they have even dumped criminal elements from other worlds on the earth just to keep things in turmoil. And because of the memory wife issue, most low-frequency criminal types don't escape. They keep reincarnating, keeping the planet like a prison in which the inmates are always fighting. Now, once you become aware of your soul and realize the tremendous power inherent within it, you can easily dismiss the deceivers trying to get you to incarnate on Earth. At that point, you free yourself from your self-created prison. And you don't even have to have all of your evolution figured out to break free. Once you've figured out you've done more than enough to compensate for anything from your past, and you've released more than 50% of the obligations you believed in, you are then in a position to walk out of those meetings, those life reviews, where they're trying to persuade you to stay and reincarnate. Remember this. They don't have the power to do anything to you that you do not give them permission to do. They don't have the power to do anything to you that you do not give them permission to do. So waking up is imperative to freeing yourself. And it isn't difficult. The quickest, most effective way to do this is by simply merging with the presence and light of your own soul. By bringing it in, acknowledging it, integrating into it, into all of your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. And that's easily done by connecting through the heart center. This is called soul merging. It's pleasurable. It's also fun to do. And if you want a full list of the hundreds of assertions that I used myself years ago, I have an audio program titled Soul Merge, and it'll make that whole process a lot easier for you. I've also recorded a program called Soul Solution Journeys that has guided meditations to connect you deeply with your soul. Both programs are available on my website. And there's also my first book, The Soul Solution. It's kind of a play on word, as if the soul is the only solution, which I believe it is. It's available in Kindle format on Amazon, and it goes into a lot more detail. After this life, you will find yourself somewhere And by integrating your enlightened soul, you'll be able to live in the most beautiful places in the entire universe. There are vast populations that have evolved, all living in unconditional love, kindness, service, and living with incredibly tremendous beauty. Your task now is simply to break free from the falsehood and the fear-based beliefs. This is actually a deprogramming process because this planet has deceived you into accepting many false teachings about who you are, what God is, how to evolve. And just knowing what I have revealed in this video alone can help you immensely. But you really do need to do deep self-examinations to be sure that you're not holding self-critical, self-limiting beliefs that are keeping you entrapped. Now, to help prepare you for any future where you might find yourself, such as a life review, I'm going to lead you through a short but a very consciousness transforming meditation. So the rest of this video should not be done while you're driving or while you're doing anything else. It is a short guided meditation preparing to free you from any future beings who try to trick you into returning to Earth. So you want to arrange yourself comfortably now in a position to meditate and rearrange your body so that each and every part of your body is loose and free and comfortable. And close your eyes if you have not yet done so. And take a deep breath slowly in through your nose and hold it for just an instant. And when you feel comfortable, release it slowly out through your mouth. And feel yourself relaxing more deeply. Relax your jaw by separating your teeth slightly. And feel yourself relaxing even more. And recognize that with each breath, you are bringing in more and more light. So your entire body becomes filled with a brilliant, blazing white light, filling you from head to toe. And you feel a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment about your life. But you also might be feeling or remembering other thoughts, memories, activities, things that you've done, feelings you've had. And as you reflect on your life, you may have some memories arise that you haven't thought of in a very long time. Maybe some of those are thoughts with regrets that need to be healed. Perhaps there were interactions with people you wish you had handled differently. And maybe there were some things that you wish you had done that you didn't. And in some cases, maybe there are some words that you wished you had said that you didn't. And you can imagine doing that now, speaking the words that were left unsaid or incomplete to whomever it was that you wish you had said those words. Bring to mind any interactions with others where you did not treat them with the most kindness and love. And you want to release any regret or guilt or resentment or anger or hatred. And you want to free yourself as completely as possible. So follow these words and make them your own. It is my intention and my desire to forgive, release, and heal myself from everything I have ever said or done. Now repeat that again, putting it all together in one sentence. It is my intention and my desire to forgive, release, and heal myself from everything I have ever said or done. Reflect on your life and think about the regrets or things you wish you had said or done differently. And in your mind, recall those events and imagine saying the things you wish you had said and doing the things you wish you had done. In other words, you can replay your life as you wish it had been. And this helps to heal all the wounds. You can forgive. You can release whatever needs to be let go. And use your imagination to visualize and feel the energy shifting as you let go. Dissolve, or even vacuum off the painful or negative energy. And I'm going to be quiet for a little bit, but you might want more time. So just pause the player and take as much time as necessary. Now that you have been doing this clearing process, there may be more work to do on this, and you may return to it at any time in the future that you would like. But now I'd like you to do something else. I'd like you to do that life review again, and this time, bless every person you can remember who was in your life for any purpose at all, going all the way back to your earliest memories. And it doesn't matter if that person were good or bad to you, or even if they were only in your life briefly. It's easiest to start with the present and work your way back month by month and year by year. And what I'd like you to do is bless those people. And that means you send positive intentions and wishes for them to be forgiven, purified, healed, filled with love, and blessed with an abundant life. And you can even say those words. It is my wish for my friends and loved ones to be forgiven, purified, healed, and fulfilled with an abundant life of love. So I'll be quiet again. And if you want more time, just pause the player and take as much time as necessary. Now you can begin your return to here and now, bringing with you a new consciousness memories, blessings, renewal, a new fresh outlook. Come back slowly and gently at your own pace, in your own time and in your own way.